like me and you're a big My Chem fan, you've been asking yourself the same question for many, many years now. Where the hell is MCR5? And if you're not into My Chem, then one, you should be, and two, I hope this video, if you do continue to watch it, indoctrinates you into not only listening to them, but following this album as it may or may not release in the future. So I'm going to talk about the state of where the album was, where it came from, what it even is, and where it lies today. Because MCR5 is one of the most anticipated albums, I would say, of the modern day at least. We are going on over a decade of waiting for this project. But first, let's talk history. So as many of you are already familiar with, MCR, aka My Chemical Romance, was a band formed in 2001 after their lead singer Gerard Way witnessed 9/11 with his own naked eye, and that inspired him to write some songs and start a band. Which also leads to some crazy theories that 9/11, through a chain of events, ruined Ellen DeGeneres' career, but that's another story. Because 9/11 inspired MCR to start, and then MCR inspired Twilight, which then inspired 50 Shades of Grey, which then turned into a movie, which then Dakota Johnson started that movie, and then Dakota Johnson got on Ellen because of that movie, and then she outed Ellen as being a bitch, and basically ended her career. But anyways, the band started in 2001, and they released their debut album, I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love, in 2002. Then they really got the ball rolling with their sophomore record, Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, in 2004, which got them loads more popularity and radio play, and that's where, you know, they started becoming more of a household name. But they really became a household name in 2006 when they released their biggest album to date, The Black Parade, which featured some of their biggest singles, including Teenagers and Welcome to the Black Parade, Famous Last Words. Just a lot of good songs, a lot of really popular songs on that one. And the album is very theatrical and has a theme throughout, and it's kind of like a concept album. It's like probably their most ambitious project to date. Then, the band originally was supposed to break up after that album, but because of their success, and I guess they wanted to keep going, they recorded another album which is now called Conventional Weapons, but then they scrapped that album because they didn't think it was good enough. But you can still listen to it today. It was released much later in 2013, even though it was recorded in 2008 and 2009, I think. But then in 2010, they released their fourth and final record to this day, which is Danger Days, the fabulous lives of... what's it called? Danger Days, The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys, which was another loose concept record, but this time it was a lot more bubbly and kind of poppier and had a lot more synthesizers, but still edgy. And at that point, everyone's wondering, what sound are they going to go with next? Because they had pretty drastically, well, not like super drastically, but slowly changed their sound from album to album. No two of their albums sound exactly the same. You can hear kind of the natural progression between them, but none of them sound like the previous. So people were like, what's MCR5? What's it gonna be? What are they doing? Then around 2012-ish, around after Danger Days comes out, there starts being reports of MCR5 being recorded. In fact, they allegedly even built a new studio to record the album. And at the time, through multiple interviews, they simply referred to the album as MCR5.
You know,
And you're working on what album? What number album?
5. I'm only calling it, I like to call it MCR5 right now, so I'm really excited.
The last interview regarded MCR5 while it was still in production was actually a March 6th, 2013 issue of Kerrang! Magazine, which claims that 6 songs were completed for the album at that point. But then, that very same month, tragedy struck us all. March 22nd, 2013, a day that lives in infamy to many emo fans around the world. The band broke up. They didn't make any videos, they didn't make a big long statement explaining why they broke up or what was going on. They simply made a short blog post on their website out of nowhere saying, basically, the band has run its course and it's time to end. And everybody was devastated. You know, for years, the band's reputation became the band that broke up. Like, to many people, this felt like the biggest band breakup since the Beatles. Well, in some scenes at least. The band's popularity continued into the 2010s through Tumblr and other blog sites where people still spread the love for the band and their music, and they gained more and more of a massive following over the years just because so many people resonate with their sound and their lyrics and their emotion. And for 2013 onwards, we just kind of entered a sort of somewhat dark era for the band. Not dark in a sense where, like, you know, like the band was in a bad place or anything. They actually were doing quite well for themselves. All of them went on to go and do their own solo projects, all releasing music on their own, with a couple collaborations between a few of the band members here and there. But personally, I feel that while I think all of their solo projects have merit of their own, and they're good on their own, and a lot of them have really grown on me, they all still lack that synergy. They lack that sauce that all of the ingredients of the different band members brought together. So for many, many years, people were speculating and wondering if the band was going to get back together. All kinds of theories. I remember there was one theory that the band had stated before that they were kind of following a similar kind of band release schedule as the Smashing Pumpkins, and people said that the Smashing Pumpkins broke up 1 year and then they got back together after like 6 years. So people were saying, oh, so they're actually going to get back together at 6 years. This is all planned. But one big thing that fueled these theories, and to get kind of back on track, is that in 2014, the year after they broke up, they released a compilation album of their greatest hits. But not only was it their greatest hits, it sounds like I'm saying greatest tits, but the compilation album featured a new song, which was the last song they said they worked on, which was supposed to be on MCR5, and it was called Fake Your Death. Can you see where this is going? It definitely kind of feels and sounds like a eulogy for the band, like kind of like a farewell, almost like they intentionally made it knowing it was their last song. Personally, I'm not crazy about the song, so if the rest of the album sounded like that at the time, I don't know how crazy I would have been about it, but it is like a farewell song, I would say. But that was for a while the only definitive MCR5 content that we had. Then, a couple years after they broke up, actually, I don't know the exact date of this interview. It could have been like 2014 or maybe like 2015 or so, but I remember it coming out. There was an interview where Gerard actually talked about MCR5 and what it was.
It's going to be this storyline about a support group of parents who are dealing with the loss of their children.
Whoa.
So they make up this story about the children all being missing in the woods and fighting this witch. And that was what it was about.
Did you have a name for it?
Yeah, it was called The Paper Kingdom.
It sounds kind of cool. It sounds
So basically, it was intended to be the band's last album. And not only do we get the concept behind the album, but we get the name of it. And the name of the scrapped MCR5 was called The Paper Kingdom. And basically, The Paper Kingdom was a story about a support group of parents who all lost their children in horrific ways. And they kind of form this group and make up a story about how a witch stole their children and how they're not like actually dead and they're a part of this kind of like fantasy adventure land or whatever. So it was this big concept record. Gerard describes it as super, super dark, and he basically said that he was in a really, really bad place at the time of recording that album, and he didn't want to go on stage every night in this persona as like a support group of parents, especially, I imagine, having a kid of his own. He just did not want to do this theme. And the album was supposed to have a big stage production for a tour where they were going to get the costume designer and stage production designers that they got in the Black Parade era, which when I first heard that, it was like a stake through my heart. It hurt so much because that was exactly what I wanted to see. But yeah, the whole thing got scrapped, and that was the last we heard of it, but at least we got some information on what it was instead of just leaving us wondering. So the years continued, the band's broken up, they're releasing their solo projects. People keep asking them if there's a possibility that they'll get back together. especially Frank, who keeps saying, no, the band's over, we're done, that chapter's closed. People start losing hope after a couple years. There was a moment in 2016 where, for the 10th anniversary of the Black Parade, they released a kind of deluxe edition with demos and stuff, and they had this whole cryptic campaign for it, which they called MCRX, and people were freaking out because they thought it was a new album and they were getting back together, but it actually wasn't. I was still happy about it though, because I liked that we got new songs at least, even though they were old new songs, still new songs nonetheless. But yeah, for years it was nothing. We got like some collaborations between Gerard and Ray Toro, which were the closest thing we got to MCR returning at that point. I believe in like 2018 or 2017 or so, they were all, for the first time and since they broke up, photographed together at like a bar or something, and that was huge for the fan base. And after a couple years, MCR reuniting started becoming a bit of a joke because it seemed so unlikely. But then, out of nowhere, the band starts posting these weird cryptic symbols in 2019. And it's funny because I remember the day they started posting those. My girlfriend at the time was having like a really bad day, and we were both commuting home from the train, and she was just like kind of in a shitty mood. But I was just ecstatic seeing these symbols because there was once again hope that the band could be getting back together. Oh yeah, also shortly before this, I forgot about this little event, but Joe Jonas? No, it was one of the Jonas brothers. I think it was Kevin Jonas. Said, or was it? It was one of the Jonas brothers. They said in like a radio interview that My Chemical Romance was, they were rehearsing in like the studio next to them or something, which was like a huge deal for a lot of people. But then Frank went on to say that that was a lie, but it turned out it wasn't. Or at least we don't know if it was. But anyways, the cryptic symbols kept coming and coming and coming, and then before you know it, BAM! The band is back together. They officially announced a reunion show in LA in 2019, which is especially funny considering there were two different theories that they were going to return in 2019. One being that their album Danger Days takes place in 2019, but another one being that if they were following the Smashing Pumpkins schedule, like they said, they would be reuniting 6 years after their breakup, which once again would have been 2019. But they do the reunion show and everybody's going crazy, but then everybody's asking, like, is this it? Is this all we're getting? Like this is awesome, but like one show just to like do a reunion show is like cool, but like, you know, sometimes bands will do one reunion show and then just cut it quits again. So we didn't know whether or not that's what this was or if it was like an actual reunion. But then it turned out, baby, nope, they're here to stay. They announced a whole line of new shows, an entire tour. It was great. But then 2020 rolls around, and I'm sure you remember what happened that year. A little something called COVID-19. The tour got pushed back not one, but 2 entire years. But 2 years later, with the year of the tour, something happened that we were all hoping for, and it sent me to the moon. And that was that they released a new single, The Foundations of Decay, which is an awesome song. I think it's one of my favorite songs by them, not just because it's a good song, but because it's just like the perfect comeback song. And now that they've released a new song, and, you know, they're officially touring again, they're like actually a band again, everybody loves the new song. The question is there going to be an MCR5 now? Is it back on the table, or are they just going to be kind of releasing new singles, or any more singles at all after The Foundations of Decay, because we still haven't gotten any? See, one thing I want to point out is that Gerard Way is the frontman of the band, and he very much controls everything. He decides what happens to the band, he writes the songs, he makes the calls. It's pretty evident of that. And Gerard's short-lived solo career happened to be him releasing a full album a year after the band broke up. And then after that, it was just a series of singles like every other year or so. And he said that he didn't like the pressure of recording an album, and that he just kind of wanted to do his own thing and just record singles and then just release them as he goes. Which leads me to believe that this is kind of the mantra that he's taking with MCR. He doesn't want to be super stressed about it or anything. He just kind of wants to record when he wants to record, and that's why we have only got one single up until this point. But, you know, the band has been pretty consistently doing shows. I mean, we already are getting a second tour. this summer. Which, once again, brings me back to the question, are we getting a new album? You know, it's been 15 years since the last full-length MCR album. People are dying to get their hands on something new from them. And while I'm very, very, very satisfied that the Foundations of Decay even came out, and thankfully is as good as it was, I was actually afraid to listen to it at first because I was like, oh god, what if it sucks? Like, what if we waited all this time for new music by them and it fucking sucks? But it didn't, thankfully. But up until this point, we have no official confirmation that they are recording an album. A reputable leaker has it leaked, said a little while ago that they were working, or they booked studio sessions for new music, but then they went on to say, after they got harassed by MCR fans to give them more information, which then led them to say that they would never release any more MCR news ever again, but they basically said that they canceled the sessions and they don't know the future of the band. So that's not good news, but clearly the band is still active. But something else regarding MCR5 that has happened somewhat recently was the Paper Kingdom, the original scrapped version of MCR5, leaked. I believe 3 full songs got leaked, and the whole track list, or not the track list, but the names of all the songs on the album got leaked as well. And the leaker claimed to have all of them, and I guess just didn't release all of them, but the thing was ultimately sold to a private buyer. So the rest of the songs may never see the light of day. But in the leaks, it was very evident that the album was not finished. Not just because, you know, all the songs weren't there, but because like the recordings themselves sounded more like demos than a full recorded band performance. But still, that was, you know, the first we've gotten of the official MCR5 up until this point. So we got tossed a little bone there. But that's the old MCR5. What about the new MCR5? Whatever it may be. Well, for this new tour, they promoted it and announced it in such a weird, cryptic way that is very unconventional and I've never seen another band do before. And a lot of people were upset by this because people thought, like, they can't possibly be putting this much effort into the promotion of a tour. There has to be new music with it. Well, the issue with that is that it's clearly themed after the Black Parade, but they're building off of the Black Parade lore from 20 years ago? 20 years? Holy shit, 20 years ago. So I doubt that they would release at least a full album of new songs themed after the Black Parade. It'd be cool if it was like an EP or something, like kind of like Mad Gear and the Missile Kid, where it was just like a themed thing, short group of songs that they released. That I would be happy with. But like to wait this long for MCR5 and have it be basically them retreading old grounds, but I doubt that's what they're going with. As far as new interviews go, the only one of them that ever seems to make a public appearance is Frank, mostly due to the fact that not only is he very open, but also he has his own side projects going on at the same time. But he keeps denying in interviews that they're not working on anything new and that they're, you know, if something happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But Frank has lied to us before about this, so we really don't know from that information. But I haven't verified this because I don't follow this person, but somebody from a Discord server, which allegedly has it leaked, the person who said they would never share more MCR news, they said that the label wants more music from them. I mean, understandably, they are a absolute cash cow. They're humongous, and of course they're going to want a new album from them if they're signed to a label. But not only do they want an album, but they claim that there is material, like existing material. I don't know how much I trust this, but so take it with a grain of salt. But it's a tiny little inkling of news regarding MCR5 and the state of it. Nothing concrete, of course, but it's a little glimmer of hope. Knowing the band, if they do release an album, I don't even know if they would announce it ahead of time at this point, but I feel like if it was an album they would, but they might do they would probably do some like cryptic posting leading up to like the announcement, or probably release a single that way, which then announces the album in more typical fashion. But I would expect some cryptic posts first. Look, I know you're under an NDA, but if you know anything about MCR 5. Maybe not tell everybody, but just, let me know, just please, so I can sleep at night. Also, while the band was getting a little bit of backlash for their promotional stuff, because, they got everybody worked up, and then it just turned out to be some shows, which some people were disappointed by. Frank responded to one of those comments saying that you have no idea what you're in for. Like, we like how you're very ungrateful, like you have no idea what's in store for you, is what I think he said. Which could either mean one of two things. It could mean that the show itself is very spectacular, which I have no doubt that it will be. I mean, they have a B stage, which means there's going to be something crazy going on, which I will be at the Philadelphia show for, by the way, so if you run into me, feel free to say hi. Or it could mean that they are planning some sort of release alongside with the shows. But if that were true, it would probably have to be soon, considering that their first show of the tour is a month from now. So I don't know, man. I don't know if maybe they're going to wait for the tour to finish and then they're going to start recording again, or maybe they're going to record while they're on tour, or they just won't record at all. But all of us are hoping and praying, just begging for a new MCR record. Even if it's just one last record. We need the closure after just them just pushing us under the bus and releasing a random breakup statement and playing with our emotions and then getting back together and just leaving us in the dust waiting for this new record that we've been waiting so long for. We need closure. We need just a eulogy of a record, a requiem, a swan song, if you will, which is kind of, I guess, what the Foundations of Decay is, but still want a record. Look, I get it. The Foundations of Decay is a perfect comeback song. It's almost their perfect. If it was their last song, it would be the perfect last song. Just like sonically and thematically, it just works so well. But I want more, and everyone else does too. So if one of you's watching this, Ray, Mikey, Gerard, Frank, just I don't know. Do something. It doesn't matter what it is. People will probably eat it up regardless. You don't have to worry about your legacy. You don't have to worry about hurting the band's reputation with a poorly received record. Just people will love it no matter what. I promise you. Actually, I don't know if that's true. People are pretty harsh. But I will love it regardless. But until then, we will continue to wear our tinfoil hats and conspiring about the possibility of the album ever being made. But if there is an album announcement, you know where to find me, and I'm sure I will be on the floor after having cardiac arrest from the amount of excitement that I will be experiencing through my body. So please, MCR, give the people what they want. Give us MCR 5.